What is up, YouTube? Alejandro here with another video. Today we're going to talk about something that is very close to me and that I've experienced both sides. So one question that I've had people ask me and that a lot of people contemplate when they're working in real estate is whether they should quit their full-time job to start investing full-time. So when I say investing, I mean could be, investing means a lot of things. In my case, I'm saying being a flipper, wholesaler, even a real estate agent, and then of course in the bigger side, developing and all that really cool stuff. So I've done both working as a flipper while having a job and while not having a job. And there's a few key things to note. And this applies for all facets of investing in real estate. I've always told myself that you never want to risk your basis. When you're at a W-2 job, although you are capped in income, you are also have a floor in income. So you may be getting paid less than what you could make doing a flip, but you also have the security in mind of knowing that you're going to be getting a paycheck, assuming that you do your job decently well. This is magnificent because your bases are always covered. When I say basis, I mean your shelter, your food, and your well-being, being cleanly items, gasoline, just your daily essentials. When you don't have access to these bases, it really damages your psyche, and it almost leaves you at like a starvation, very dark place. In the past, when I was trying to wholesale full-time, as well as started flipping without having a W-2 job, my income was literally a roller coaster. Now, I remember one month I made like $9,000, the next month I made zero, the next month I made, I think, only $2, and the next month I made, I think, $4. So, I could have endured that and possibly made more, but having those high income roller coaster gaps was really messing with me mentally because I almost didn't want to buy food because like, what if I just don't make money this month? Let me just eat ramen and tuna. That is not a healthy way to live. And one thing too to note is like, if you're just starting, you're gonna be turning your wheels a lot and not getting much done. That's just the way that a learning curve works when you're doing something new and that you are trying to immerse yourself in. And by having a W-2 job, a lot of your tasks usually are actually not necessarily high brain power tasks, depending on your W-2 job. Like if you guys are like a crazy software engineer that's in a startup, you don't probably even have time to start real estate investing. But if you're just at a normal job where you clock in, clock out, you do different tasks, maybe weekly, maybe monthly, you can usually, depending if it's an office job, listen to podcasts all day, listen to Bigger Pockets, listen to all these educational YouTube videos that are out there, including this one, as to how you can strategize and how you can look for deals. And then after work, this is something that not many people do, which blows my mind, is working after work. I stay for like 4 or 5 hours after work every single day, continuing to work on my own personal stuff outside of my day job. Doing that, I can be more productive, I can get more done. And if I'm doing that every day, 5 days a week for a year, that's 250 days that I'm working more than other people. And it compounds over time. So when you can do that sort of stuff while maintaining a salary, you have so much more power. Another thing to note too is that, especially with flipping, this is not really the case with wholesaling unless you have it could be the case with wholesaling with a call center. You're really only working, in a flip at least, maybe 2 to 3 hours a day. And this is if you're really like there all the time and watching your subs. You could turn it down like an hour every other day if you have a decent sub. And you can turn it up to 7 hours a day if you're doing all the work yourself. Ultimately, if you're flipping, you don't want to usually do all the work yourself because you're paying, it can be delegated and you could make more money doing something else. Because usually, in most cases, my salary at my job pays more than what I would be paying hourly to those subs. So in a arbitrage sense, it makes more sense for me to just work more at my job and to pay my subs their fees or whatever to get everything done. And kind of going back to the amount of hours it takes to manage a flip, it's pretty menial. The part that takes the longest with flipping, usually in my experience, is actually finding the deal. That takes the longest. And then the second longest is probably the paperwork associated with getting the hard money loan and maybe some draws or organizing your budget and schedule. But after that, when you get your subs in there and they know the scope, it's really not that much time that you're spending on there outside of maybe planning. And planning can be done at midnight, can be done at 8 a.m., it could be done at noon. It's rare for you to kind of have need to make a plan today. So it's one of those things where you can really get away with working a job while flipping. And I haven't met anybody, but I'm sure there are people out there that work full-time jobs and flip on the side, a part-time flipper. And doing so, I've been able to flip some 7 houses in the past year, which is incredible. It's more than 1 house every other month, which is I'm happy with. So it's just one of those things where you don't want to really risk yourself, and it doesn't take enough time for you to warrant to, because let's say if I quit my job and I'm flipping full time, if I'm not actively working the entire time, I'm wasting energy, unless if I'm somehow able to get a bunch of capital investors and do 10 flips at a time, which in that of itself is a huge ordeal that you don't want to be managing yourself if you don't have the experience yet. You don't want to quit your job. The only scenario, which is recommended by many people, which I haven't reached yet, that you'd want to quit your job is if your real estate stuff is making more than, I think, 2 or 3 times what your salary job is making. At that point, you can start to really question whether your opportunity value is being lost in real estate at your job. In other cases, it usually isn't. And right now, generally, my real estate stuff creates the same amount of money that I make at my job. So really, I'm getting twice the amount of income with less than twice the amount of hours worked in a day, which is a positive gain and definitely something that I would trade any day of the week. Although there's other stressors that you have to deal with when you're flipping, there are different types of stressors than that of a job because you ultimately are at a much higher responsibility at a flip. And this kind of goes the same with wholesaling. With wholesaling, you are going to be on the phone more, but if you have a call center set up, you really are just spending an hour or 2 a day managing them, especially if they're in a different country where the time zones are 13 hours ahead or 12 hours ahead. You can definitely do that after work. It's not like rocket science. So as for those things too, it's also really valuable to gain corporate experience. One thing that a lot of younger people do that I've met many is that they do flipping, they do wholesaling, they do agency work from 18. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some of them become very successful, they become amazing agents, but that is not everybody. You know, a lot of people getting to the top 10% is top 10%. There's the other 90% below them. And most people are in the 90%. And when you're at that case, you don't really have anything to fall back to. If you're getting good at sales with wholesaling, you will become very good at that one niche. And I've met 35-year-olds, 40-year-olds, where they've been wholesaling since they're 18. And that's all they do, that's all they know how to do, and that's all they can do, which kind of sucks. Like, you're really capping yourself and pigeonholing yourself into one singular industry, one singular niche that you can't expand on. My job is in construction management, project management, and real estate feasibility and advisory. On top of that, I do all my other side real estate stuff. I will forever be secure. I have a career and I have tons of growth in my job that also directly benefits what I do outside of work. It is what I think the best case scenario for someone that wants to be immersed in real estate. Of course, if you work a horrible job that you hate and you want to do real estate stuff, I get that. But always try to find your highest and best use. And in my case, I'm killing 2 birds with one stone because I'm getting a salary. I'm doing something that I really want to learn, I really want to get better at. And it's also directly helping me with my personal stuff on the side. So whether I'd quit this job if I make 3 times the salary, I don't know, because I really, really enjoy this job. But that is not the case with everybody. And I understand that. So that's really the whole basis, my whole reasoning for why you should not quit your W-9 job, especially too early. You do not, like I said, want to risk your own personal needs and your own basis. Do not bet and gamble with stuff like this. This is real life. And, you know, if you want to take 2 months and maybe take a risk, sure, do it. Take the learning lesson. But it's much more likely that you're going to have a hard time and that you can hedge your risk by working a job and doing everything else on the side. So if you got any value from this, let me know. Text me, call me. I have my LinkedIn, I have my YouTube, I have my Instagram on the description. Subscribe, comment. I love it when you guys talk to me. I'm really happy with how this channel is going, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I hope you're having a wonderful week. Peace.